Hi, everyone.
Greetings. In the prior segments, we were in Isaiah chapter 6, and in the last segment, Isaiah 6, verse 1, he's gone through the whole chapter. Now he revisits verse 1. Here it is in the NIV.
In the year that King Uzziah died, I saw the Lord seated on a throne, high and exalted. The train of his robe filled the temple.
So Maclaren marveled really at the fact that the chronological significance of this and its appropriateness, because the sermon gives you his take on it, which is the empty throne filled. So Uzziah's reign has been one of the greatest prosperity since perhaps Solomon's reign. So that would be over 200 years before. And yes, Isaiah and the entire population of Judah and Jerusalem would be wondering what comes next. And Maclaren also marvels at the New Testament application of this, because what was it that Isaiah saw? According to the Hebrew text, Isaiah saw Yahweh high and lifted up in the temple, in that vision where he gets his Great Commission. But in the New Testament, in the Gospel of John chapter 12, John says that what Isaiah saw was Christ, the glory of Christ. So of course, when you're a Jehovah's Witness, that's impossible. He saw Jehovah. But that's in the Hebrew text. The text that John would have been reading with his followers in Asia Minor would have been the Septuagint, where the word would have been Lord. So it was easy for them to see a connection that we wouldn't see, because our New World Translation is Old Testament is based on the Hebrew text. So where we would see a clear division between Yahweh and Jesus, no such division was visible in the Septuagint. So when John says he saw his glory, he means Christ. Now he goes on this way. Let me say a word or two about the ministration of loss and sorrow in preparing for the vision. It was when King Uzziah died that the prophet saw the Lord sitting upon the throne. If the throne of Israel had not been empty, he would not have seen the throne God in the heavens. And so it is with all our losses, with all our sorrows, with all our disappointments, with all our pains. They have a mission to reveal to us the throned God, the possession of the things that are taken away from us, the joys which our sorrows smite into dust, have the same mission. And the highest purpose of every good, of every blessing, of every possession, of every gladness, of all love, the highest mission is to lead us to Him. But just as men will frost a window so that the light may come in, but the sight cannot go out, so by our own fault and misuse of the good things which are meant to lead us up to and to show us God, we frost and darken the window so that we cannot see what it is meant to show us. And then a mighty and merciful hand shivers the painted glass into fragments, because it has been dimming the white radiance of eternity. And though the casement may look gaunt and the edges of the broken glass may cut and wound, yet the view is unimpeded. When the gifts that we have misused are withdrawn, we can see the heaven that they too often hide from us. When the leaves drop, there is a wider prospect. When the great tree is fallen, there is opened a view of the blue above. When the night falls, the stars sparkle. When other props are struck away, we can lean our whole weight upon God. When Uzziah dies, the king becomes visible.
Is that what our sorrows, our pains, losses, disappointments do for us? Well, for those to whom loss is gain, because it puts them in possession of enduring riches. Well, for those to whom the passing of all that can pass is a means of revealing Him, who is the same yesterday, today, and forever. The message to us of all these, our pains and griefs, is, come up hither. In them all our Father is saying to us, seek ye my face. Well for those who answer, thy face, Lord, will I seek. Hide not thy face far from me. Let us take care that we do not waste our griefs and sorrows. They absorb us sometimes with vain regrets. They jaundice and embitter us sometimes with rebellious thoughts. They often break the springs of activity and of interest in others and of sympathy with others. But their true intention is to draw back the thin curtain and to show us the things that are, the realities of the throned God, the skirts that fill the temple, the hovering seraphim, and the coal from the altar that purges. Let me suggest now our text shows us the compensation that is given for all losses. As I have pointed out already, the thought conveyed to the prophet by this vision was not only the general one of God's sovereign rule, but the special one of his rule over and for, and his protection of the orphan kingdom which had lost its king. The vision took the special shape that the moment required. It was because the earthly king was dead that the living heavenly king was revealed. Well, I do like what he says about do not waste our griefs and sorrows, because it reminds me of when we left the witnesses, me in particular, went through depression and grief. And it's so overwhelming when you feel that way.
Mm-hmm.
But now I don't view those times as wasted, because it was them happening that actually caused me to seek out God.
Mm-hmm.
And to make sense of everything. If that hadn't happened, I would have just carried on as I was, and I wouldn't have known what I know. So we can waste griefs if we just wallow in them and never pursue seeking out God during those dark moments.
Would it be fair to say you really had no one to call on but God when you were at the deepest?
Yeah.
At the deepest point in
Yeah.
your fall.
I didn't know who to listen to or trust anymore. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So there is just suggested by it this general thought, that the consciousness of God's presence and work for us takes in each heart the precise shape that its momentary necessities and circumstances require. That infinite fullness is of such a nature as that it will assume any form for which the weakness and the need of the dependent creature call. Like the one force which scientists now are beginning to think underlies all the various manifestations of energy in nature, whether they be named light, heat, motion, electricity, chemical action, or gravitation, the one same vision of the throne God manifest in Jesus Christ is protean. Here it flames as light, there burns as heat, there flashes as electricity, here as gravitation holds the atoms together, there as chemical energy separates and decomposes them, here results in motion, there in rest. But it is the one force, and so the one God will become everything and anything that every man and each man requires. He shapes himself according to our need. The water of life does not disdain to take the form imposed upon it by the vessel into which it is poured. The Jews used to say that the manna in the wilderness tasted to each man as each man desired, and the God who comes to us all comes to us each in the shape that we need, just as he came to Isaiah in the manifestation of his kingly power, because the throne of Judah was vacated. So when our hearts are sore with loss, the New Testament manifestation of the King, even Jesus Christ, comes to us and says, "The same is my mother and sister and brother," and his sweet love compensates for the love that can die and that has died. When losses come to us, he draws near, as durable riches and righteousness. In all our pains, he is our anodyne, and in all our griefs, he brings the comfort. He is all in all, and each withdrawn gift is compensated, or will be compensated, to each in him. I can't help but think of the meaning of the divine name in Exodus 3. I shall be what I shall be, or I will prove to be what I will prove to be.
It also, when he talks so much about sorrow here and pain, And in this case, he seems to be indicating a loss of loved ones. That reminded me of C.S. Lewis's book, A Grief Observed, because, his faith took a beating when he lost his wife.
Yeah, they'd only been married for what, 2-3 years?
Yeah, and late in life. And it so devastated him. I think he said something like, this is a mess. Like he really, even though he had comforted people in other books, he had a book called about pain, right? The meaning of pain, or
Problem of pain.
The problem of pain. So he'd already counseled people, but when you go through something yourself, it's very different.
Mm-hmm.
So he had this period of time, and then he wrote this catalog, really, of how the emotions he was going through when he lost his wife.
Joy Davidman. And I remember he published that book at first under a pseudonym.
Yeah.
Because maybe he was embarrassed about what he was confessing.
Yeah. But it was such a help, and I remember reading it when your dad died, and I recommended it to your mother as well, and she read it. And it was a help, because sometimes when you're going through that kind of grief, it helps just to know that the feelings, the ideas that pass through your head are common to people. You're not alone in that kind of thinking.
Mm-hmm.
Whether it's very dark or, just finding it hard to cope. So it was a blessing to many people, that book. Oh, I'm reading. So, dear friends, let us learn God's purpose in emptying hearts and chairs and homes. He empties them that he may fill them with himself. He takes us, if I might say, into the darkness, as travelers to the south are today passing through alpine tunnels, in order that he may bring us out into the land where God himself is sun and moon, and where there are ampler ether and brighter constellations than in these lands where we dwell. He means that when Uzziah dies, our hearts shall see the king. And for all mourners, for all tortured hearts, for all from whom stays have been stricken and resources withdrawn, the old word is true. Lord, show us the Father, and it sufficeth us.
Nice word.
Yeah. Let me recall to you what I have already insisted on more than once, that the perfecting of this vision is in the historical fact of the incarnate Son. Jesus Christ shows us God. Jesus Christ is the King of glory. If we will go to him and fix our eyes and hearts on him, then losses may come, and we shall be none the poorer. Death may unclasp our hands from dear hands, but he will close a dearer one round the hand that is groping for a stay, and nothing can be taken away, but he will more than fill the gap it leaves by his own sweet presence. If our eyes behold the King, if we are like John the seer in his rocky Patmos, and see the Christ in his glory and royalty, then he will lay his hands on us and say, Fear not, weep not, I am the first and the last. And forebodings and fears and sense of loss will all be changed into trustfulness and patient submission. Seeing him who is invisible, we shall be able to endure and to toil until the time when the vision of earth is perfected by the beholding of heaven. Blessed are they who with purged eyes see, and with yielding hearts obey the heavenly vision, and turn to the King, and offer themselves for any service he may require, saying, Here I am, send me.
His description here also reminds me of the movie about C.S. Lewis and Joy Davidman and their romance and their very brief marriage and her death.
Yeah.
She had, cancer for 2 or 3 years before she finally died.
Yeah.
And the grief observed is spoken of in 2 movies we should plug, which are the British version of Shadowlands.
That's the one I like the best.
And the American version has Anthony Hopkins in the lead, which is it's a good film.
Mm-hmm.
But either one gets across very plainly the lesson that our hearts have to be prepared for that kind of tragedy.
Yeah.
And the vision of the Lord kept Lewis's faith alive, even if his heart was broken.
Yeah. Yeah, it doesn't diminish the pain, the fact that we have the assurance that we're going to be relieved of pain and sorrow by God Himself.
Yeah, death will be no more, neither will pain nor weeping be any more. We put in 2 links to 2 videos you did. One is on F.B. Meyer, The Gift of Suffering,
Right.
his book, and also one of your Vivian's Witness videos on how you got through your depression.
Yeah, the last one of my testimonies, yeah.
See you next time.
Mm-hmm.